I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty. Okay, when I lived with my parents, I was living my best luxury lifestyle. I went to South Korea, bought a 2000 plane ticket, didn't even blink twice. I went shopping, luxury goods, all that. Was traveling, was just, oh, I was living it up. I felt rich. I had no bills. And I had a full-time 9-to-5 job. I was working as a nurse, okay? I was killing it. I bought my own house. That first mortgage payment came in and I was like, oh, this is a situation. But at first you think you can handle it, right? Like, what's a couple thou? What's a couple thou? I got it. But then the pipes in my 80-year-old home broke immediately as soon as I bought the house. Wiped out my savings. Then another pipe in a different area of the house broke. Okay, I'm struggling. Okay, I need help. Then my neighbor's pipe, it was a twin house, her pipe broke. And she didn't believe that her pipe broke, but her pipe broke on my side of the house. So all of that water that was coming down was spraying into my home. And then my water heater broke. When I tell y'all, I went from living in the lap of luxury to destitute immediately. Now, don't get me to fooling y'all, because it was worth it in the long run, because that house is now worth like 2 times what it was worth then. So I'm actually doing pretty good. But at the time, when I tell you I was struggling, I had to go to my parents every other day for dinner because your girl could not feed herself.
Is being house poor worth it? Is owning a house but not being able to do anything, not being able to afford to go out and experience more life and like make memories worth it? I see so many people on this app that are like, oh, well, I enjoy my mortgage and stuff like that. But do you? Like, you get one life. That's it. We all know that, okay? And to be stuck at home for maybe even, just say, the next 10 years, doing really nothing, watching Netflix and rotting away, is it really worth it? Because you felt the need, because society tells you that, like, if you don't own a house at some point, you're failing in life. You felt the need to follow those footsteps, and now you're stuck at home. I just feel like that's not worth it anymore. Yes, back in the day, you could own a house, you could go on trips, you could have this whole family thing, all this. But y'all that are trying to flex on others saying, oh, well, I own a house. You don't. Yeah, but at least they have the money to rent and leave the house and go and do things. I'm not saying you have to go party every weekend or anything like that, but at least they can go out and see their family, fly somewhere, take vacations. Like, give me your opinions in the comments, please.
Buying a home as a single parent is a bad idea. I'm a single parent who bought a home and I am thousands of dollars in debt. I thought that buying a home would be the best thing for my daughter and I. I didn't take into consideration property taxes. My mortgage went from $1,400 to $1,900 in 2 years. I'm in debt because I had 3 water leaks. Not only did I have to pay the rise in property taxes, but I had to pay for the maintenance in my home. I definitely believe that home ownership requires 2 incomes. All of the things that I could do before I bought the home, all of the things I could provide to my daughter before I bought my home, I can no longer do. I am what they call house poor. If you are a single parent looking to buy a home, I hope you have thousands of dollars in savings. Equity is cool and all, but when it comes at a price, I don't think I'm willing to pay it anymore.
A lot of people cannot make progress financially because they are house poor and they probably don't even know it. Being house poor is when you own a home that you cannot afford. What does that look like? When you have a payment that is a very big percentage of what you make monthly and all you can afford basically is to pay the mortgage. By the time you cover all your house expenses, you are basically left with nothing. I think it's important to talk about this because people are under the impression that as long as you own a home, you're winning. And that is not the case. If you are owning a home stressed out because by the end of the month, you have nothing left, you cannot afford that. That is what we call you bought too much house. With your monthly income, you should be able to pay your mortgage, set money aside, invest, basically still have a life, right? And not feel like you're drowning and not feel like you can't breathe. The biggest, smartest way to do this is waiting to buy a house when you are ready. Not when the pressure is, when are you going to buy a house? When are you going to buy a house? Oh, everyone buys a house when they get married. Why aren't you? No, you need to buy a house when you're ready. Doing this when you're ready looks like this. You should be debt free. You should have an emergency fund and you should aim to have a really good down payment. 5, 10, 15, 20% down. And that will give you margin. That will give you breathing room. That will make sure you are doing this the right way. So don't let anyone pressure you into this. Buying a house is the biggest expense you're ever going to make, at least for most of us. Make sure you're doing this the right way.
So I'm gonna show you the house I bought for $379. I mean, it's a townhouse, so you have an idea of what it looks like. Keep in mind, this townhouse is now $430, and I bought it for $370 3 months ago. Like Arlington, Texas, is like an elite location in Dallas, because remember, there's two big towns in Dallas. There's Dallas and there's Fort Worth, and Arlington is smack dab in the middle. Oh, and Cowboy Stadium, you can't see it from the front, but you can see it from the back, is like 5 minutes away. Side note, if you're going to a Dallas Cowboys game and you don't want to deal with the parking, link up with me and you can park in my driveway and I drop you off and pick you up. Here we go. So this is the house right here. I was the first one on the block, and now all these other houses are finished. Okay. I love this porch because I'll be out here smoking cigars and shit. So this is it right here. Like, I like the whole modern wall thing. But this is the living room. This is where I do my writing. It came with the stove and the microwave and shit, but I had to buy the refrigerator though. Let me show you something cool about this fridge. So you see it? That's the fridge. That's the freezer, and that's the flex zone. Oh, sign out, check this out. Oh, and check this shit out. See it right here? $1,000 just for that. Oh, and this is like the flex zone. You could program it to do anything. And you know I'm alcoholic, so I fucking use it for drinks and shit. So this is the downstairs bathroom. It's just a half. I'm gonna take you upstairs. Here we are. All right, the master bedroom to the right, the guest to the left. I'm gonna show you all the cool shit in here. So this is my bedroom. I'm a bachelor, so no, I don't do the decorating shit. Here's the one closet. Nothing but my hoodies, because I don't like clothes. And this is the other one. This is the bathroom. Holla at me if you use the CPAP and make questions, because I know I do. But this is the bathroom. Glass shower. The shitter's over there. And leaving the master. Oh, this is cool. The washer and dryer up here. And these are just two empty bedrooms and an empty bathroom that never gets used. And this is the reason I'm poor.
And everybody doesn't want to be a homeowner, and everybody won't be a homeowner. Let's talk about it. They said 68% of adults go and buy a home because they were encouraged to, not because they understood why or why not to. Of that 68% of adults who go and rush and buy a home just because that's what society tells us to do, 32% regret buying that home within the first 5 years of living in that home. See, because I fear that that idea has a lot more to do with the idea of playing home than it does on the actual value of owning your own home. I'm sorry, owning your own loan. Which is why we have a lot of young adults unmarried, playing house, but in an apartment. Okay, that wasn't part of my script, but... Stop making people feel bad for not rushing into buying a home because they haven't decided where they want to settle down, and they're not even sure that they want to wake up one day and realize that they are house poor. Because of the reality of what it means to quote unquote own your own home in 2025. Don't catch up, catch on. And that's how you'll have a better financial life in the future.
Transparency post. I regret buying a house. I regret it a lot. If I could go back to January 2022, I would tell that girl, do not. Just find another apartment to move into, because doing all this shit that I have to do for this house and all the unexpected costs, high dollar unexpected costs that I keep running into, to be handling it by myself, is ass. So to all you young women
who want to go out and buy a home, I encourage you to really, really think about it. Talk to some people and really see the ins and outs. I mean, it always sounds good. Oh yeah, your mortgage is only going to be $1,000 until they reevaluate your property taxes, and that bitch goes up $200. You know, it's trash. 85 degrees, your AC is going to go out. You don't want to know how much that costs. It's trash.
Yep, a lot of people are house poor, and a lot of them are not discussing it. And maybe they're not discussing it because the alternative is to be rent poor. And they would prefer to be house poor before they become rent poor. Because there's a lot of people who are renting and they are struggling to save. And at the end of their lease, they have no equity or anything to pull for. And before you know it, you're in this cycle where you've been renting for 5 years, and 10 years, and 20 years, and you're still rent poor. So we have to start thinking about the alternative, right? What is the alternative? I don't have all the answers. I don't think everybody should own. I don't think everybody should rent, but we need to start discussing what exactly is the alternative.
I'm in the process of buying my very first house as a 28-year-old with no kids. I'm not married. I am in a relationship. I close in 7 days, and I feel like I should be super excited right now and happy, but in reality, I am terrified. And I am so nervous, and I want to back out, but it is literally way too late in the process for me to back out. And I've missed my last chance to do that. And so now I am just like sitting here and regretting my decision, but we're just gonna have to make it work. We're gonna have to figure it out. And yeah, I'm gonna be house poor. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna afford food. I don't know how I'm gonna afford gas. I don't know what I'm doing. Who let me do this?
I became a homeowner at 22 years old, and I instantly regretted that shit, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you why I regretted it, though. So, I ended up putting $78,000 down on my house, right? And once you get your house, right, you become house poor, okay? Now, everybody's not gonna be house poor. I was house poor. I'm just speaking from my experience, bro. I'm young as shit, buying a house. I'm house poor at this point. I'm like, damn. You know what I'm saying? I did not really gauge all the maintenance that it took to take care of a house. On top of that, I had to put work into the house. They sold us the house, right? Sold the house with mold in it. How did I not know it was mold in it? Did you not get an inspector? Yeah, I had an inspector. This what these dirty, nasty, gritty people did. Scantless, right? They painted over the mold so thick that the detectors couldn't get it. And it didn't even smell like mold down there, nothing. It was all dry, right? So I had to go in, get the walls chopped out, get the house waterproof, whatever that came up to. So this is just more stuff you got to come out of. But all in all, I would say that I really regretted it once I figured out how much the maintenance was, bro. And like how often you got to do certain things, and obviously it makes it a little sweeter that it's your shit and it's an investment, but for me personally, I just was not ready for that. Now the house is about to sell. I actually don't know what I'm going to do with the cash that I do get from the house. Obviously I might invest in another property. I think that's where my head's at, but just something to like rent out or something, you know what I'm saying? Not to live in. I can't do it. I'd rather live in an apartment. I'm gonna be honest. You can call me crazy all you want, but I just feel like at this point in my life, I should be living in an apartment, bro. A house is a lot. It's a lot.
People telling me owning a home is the best investment you could ever have. I do believe that to be true. That don't change the fact that I'm tired of being a homeowner. I'm tired of the problems that it come with. I'm tired of all the responsibility, hanging on my shoulders. I miss renting. I feel like I had more freedom with renting. Now, I know when you rent, You're paying month to month, and all that money is going down the drain. It's not going towards nothing. It's not investing in nothing. It's not. I know that, and I don't care. I thought about it so much, selling my house and going back to live with my mother. Because why not? I don't have kids. I don't have a man. I don't have any drama that I would bring my mama. And I can pay all her bills. Mind you, my mama still live in the projects and income-based housing. She doesn't pay rent anyway. We'll be over there living like kings and queens. Jesus Christ. I feel like the only thing that I would miss owning my home, or, you know, moving back with my mom or just whatever, is the privacy. I do not like people all the time. I do not like noise, you know. But when you move in with somebody or any sort of living adjustment, then you have to understand what that comes with. You know what I'm saying? And
anniversary of becoming a home borrower. I borrowed this house from the bank 3 years ago, and I hate it. And some people are asking me why. Why do you hate it? Because I can't afford it. I can't afford this house. When I borrowed the house, I could afford it, and the bank insured that. Since then, though, my property, my homeowner's insurance was $1,323 a year. Today, 3 years later, my homeowner's insurance is $2,654 a year. That is a little over $100 increase, which is added to my payment. Now, I know a lot of people will say crap like, oh, well, you know, if you buy a house, your mortgage will be cheaper than your rent. Sure, if I were to rent a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, my rent would be a lot more than my principal and interest on this house. However, I'm escrowed, so it doesn't fucking matter because I have to pay principal and interest, my property taxes, and my homeowner's insurance monthly. So I know some people will usually say like, oh, my mortgage increased by $200 this year. Yes, we're not actually referring to the mortgage, which is the principal and interest amount. We're referring to the overall payment that we have to submit to the bank every month. It's not actually the mortgage, we know that, but we're in escrow, we don't have a choice. So it's the mortgage payment that we're paying. When I signed up for this fucking house, I signed up to pay $1,800 a month. I'm closer to $2,200 now in 3 years. That's a lot of money. And it's only going to continue to increase. And that's kind of my issue with this right now, because I'm at a point where I'm like, this is actually no different than renting. The only difference is that I don't have a landlord that I can call when my fucking toilet overflows, or, you know, when the basement floods, or whatever the fuck happens. I don't have that option. Like, I had the savings for that. It was, you know, I was fully aware of that. But everything is increasing. And we all know that too. Like, everything, the cost of living is increasing. And I can't afford this house. I hate it. But I can't, it's like, I'm probably not going to go back to renting because I invested over $30,000 into living here for upfront costs. Not referring to how much I've paid in my mortgage and all that. But I'm a single mom. And regardless of me being a single mom, I make a decent living. Like, there are people in joint households, 2-parent households, who make less than me or make as much as me, and, you know, so it's really not the single mom aspect that I'm referring to in terms of financially. It's more so, it's too much for me to do on top of being a mom and on top of working full-time. Like, we all know what comes with being a single parent. So for me, it's just like, it's too much.
But I just feel like I would over save. And the interest rate I got was pretty good at the time. Obviously, it's not gone back down. So I feel very lucky in that aspect. But I do think I would have waited a little bit longer to be in a little bit better financial spot. And I was told by a realtor that it usually takes, if it's a single person, whether it be just one person rather than two people. It takes you about a year to 2 years to feel like your finances are back in order after buying a house. And I definitely think that's true. So I'm hoping to do another video next year and kind of update you guys on how I've been feeling and if it was really worth it. So far, knock on wood, only a couple things have broken and I've had to pay for a couple things. And I do feel like I've been pretty prepared for that. But I would definitely say if you're wanting to buy a house, especially as a single person, or if you're saving money to buy a house, definitely oversave and make sure you know all the hidden fees that are associated with it, because people won't tell you what the actual breakdown of all the fees that are associated with buying a house. And I made a really good post the last year when I bought my house about how much my house actually costs. It was a $300,000 house, so like how much I actually had to pay for that, as opposed to like what people will try to tell you to get you into a house. So make sure you use resources like that.
I'm going to tell you about one of the biggest mistakes I made purchasing my first home. And believe it or not, the biggest mistake I made was, because I wasn't in the real estate at the time, the biggest mistake I made was listening to my uncle. Terrible mistake. Cost me $250,000. How? This is how. I was buying a house in D.C. I was excited about being a homeowner in D.C. Of course, the house was small. It was off of South Dakota Avenue. At this time, the house was going for, I believe, around $257. Right? We did a home inspection. Had some water issues. Nothing that couldn't be fixed. That's what I know now, you know. Didn't know at the time. My uncle had previously bought homes, so I thought he knew better than I did. I even thought that he knew better than the realtor who was currently buying homes every day, all day, like helping people buy homes every day, all day. I thought my uncle who bought homes but was not actively buying homes knew more about the real estate market than my agent who was working with people every month, every day to get into houses. So we had the water issue, decided to back out of the deal, and bought a house in Maryland. Left DC completely, bought a house in Maryland for the same price, like $260. Today, that house in PG County is only worth $450, and the house in DC is worth $700,000. I hit my uncle up like, hey, bruh, like, I lost $250,000. Like, how much can you reimburse me, you know, of that $250? And he didn't reimburse me anything. So I say that to say, your family, they love you, they have your best interests, but they're not always the most knowledgeable about the current real estate market, because it's constantly changing. You know, so don't let your family member stop you from doing something or making an investment, because they're not gonna reimburse you if what they're saying is wrong. You know, you find out later, like I did, you're just out of $250,000 because of them, because you listen to them instead of your agent. Hit me up.
I'm gonna say something, and I'm going to risk sounding extremely privileged. I know it's a privileged statement, but it's a conversation that I still think is important to have. I'm 29 years old, and I purchased my first home at 27. Right at the tail end of being 27, right before I turned 28. And I kind of regret it. I do regret it. I bought a home too soon. I bought a home before I actually was ready. And I was doing it because I felt this pressure to check certain milestones. You know, I'm looking around at people around me. I'm looking at other people's beanstalks. And I'm feeling this pressure to accomplish a certain thing by a certain timeline in my life. A timeline that I literally imposed upon myself. I was in a long-term relationship from 22 to 27, right after I turned 27. And yeah, I think a part of me stayed in that relationship because like I thought that by like 30, life was going to be a certain way. And when I went through that breakup, I kind of started over from scratch, you know, moved into an apartment and started rebuilding my life. And so I think I felt this urgency to buy a house because it would have made my ego ultimately feel safer and be like, okay, well, I might not have like might not be married yet with kids, but at least I bought a house. And yeah, I felt like I needed to buy a house. When I got out of that relationship and got into an apartment, I was like, I'm going to buy a house. And I always felt like it was such a great financial decision. You know, if I'm paying rent every month and it's disappearing, like, where is it going? If I can buy a house, I can make an investment. I've seen a lot of people in my time working in finance make a lot of money in real estate. So I was like, okay, I want to be like the most financially smart. Buying a house was not the most financially smart thing for me because it increased my cost of living substantially. I went from paying like $1,700 a month in rent to a mortgage payment with after the HOA fee of $2,600. And initially, when I was in contract to buy my house, I was going to have my sister move in with me and rent for me. So when I went into the contract to buy the house, I was kind of planning on having a roommate. But then things fell apart because my sister's addiction was kind of ramping back up. And I guess I could have moved a stranger in, but I just didn't feel like like the whole purpose of buying this house was to like get into a place of safety to heal. And I felt like having a stranger in my house, that wouldn't help. So I started putting a ton more money towards my living expenses every month. And then 2 months, no, not 2 months, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. 8 months after purchasing my house, I lost my job. And then I'm like stuck with this house. You can't sell a house for at least 2 years without paying short-term capital gains on taxes. And selling a house is expensive. You have to pay for the seller agent's commission. You have to pay also for the buyer's agent commission. So you're paying for whoever purchases your house, their real estate agent too. You have excise tax, you have title fees, potentially short-term capital gains. Selling a house is very expensive, not to mention like getting it ready to sell, whatever that looks like. Okay, so what would be the other option is you could move a tenant in and you could then go find some other way of living, but then you have to deal with a tenant and managing a rental property and everything that comes with that. And I just bought a house too soon. And it was not the best financial decision for me. And I just don't think it's talked about enough. Purchasing a home is important, but purchasing a home when you're ready is more important. And I feel like maybe it's just where I grew up in small town America, but it's like I felt like there was so much outside pressure to hit certain milestones, and I was forcing myself to do things or like, pushing myself to meet those milestones when I wasn't even ready for it. So now I'm in a position where I'm 29 and I'm going to sell my house. I was going to move a tenant in and rent it out, and I just realized I don't want to deal with that. It's the home that I bought is in my hometown, and I don't want to have to deal with going back and dealing with it and all of that kind of stuff. So buying a home before I was ready was not the best financial decision. And I just think we need to have this conversation more. And yes, I'm so grateful that I was in a position to be able to purchase a home. Like, don't get me wrong. I recognize the privilege behind this conversation. I know there's so many people that, want to be in the position of being homeowners and maybe aren't there just yet because the housing market's crazy, rates are crazy. We don't need to get into that conversation. We're underpaid, but moral of the story, I recognize the privilege and I still think it's an important conversation to be had.